हरि बोल।
disappeared. Prabhupada. So he had written this book, and Prabhupada was very proud of the book. He was just showing it to the people who came in the darshan. My disciple has written this book, Scientific Basis of Krishna Consciousness. So it's a small book. Those of you who have read it, you'll be to read it. It's a nice patient. The other thing I remember after the lecture, because I know long ago, remember exactly, he lectured out. Prabhupada's lecture pretty consistent. You know, he had us of giving a lecture. Pardon me for using that language, if anybody feels like that. But you know, he would from Gita, stories to illustrate philosophical point. So he gave classes every, and after the class, distribute halava. Halava was usually, as I recall, it wasn't the farina halava. We call it in India suji. Here it's farina. I think it's regular whole wheat halava, as I recall. He would push that into everything. He would take, he would push it into this thing. And I remember putting him, and I think I touched it. A few advantage and touches. I think I did that. So we all went. Prabhupada. This is when Chaitanya, big yellow volume. Brothers will remember that. What first? Yeah, that first it was curated. It's that book before. 7th chapter. Remember that we had. But the whole Adi Lilu came before number 1. You know, in class from that in Mayapur. Everyone in Mayapur, big leaders on their backs. The prasadam in Juhu Mayapur was almost the same. There is a word I remember for both of them. You know, it's horrible. God awful. I mean, you know, prasadam really poor. Quality was poor. It didn't taste good. Everybody got diarrhea. In 74, Gaur Purnima, 400 devotees came from all over the world. The biggest, well, that was the first really big Gaur that ISKCON observed, was this Gaur Purnima. Remember swimming across the Ganga, which I don't think I today. I was a good avid swimmer. Oh, I wasn't an avid. I remember Banana announcing, "Go to the Gaudiya and don't go out the gate." And I remember going out of the meeting of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Maharaj. No, he was very who did a preaching, and you know he saw me. I was at the Bhakti Siddhanta, and we were talking. And Mother Guru, some other, they were surprised I'm talking to Madhav Maharaj. But there was one program, the prasadam was out of this world, and that was at his ashram in Navadvip. All I remember was the prasadam. It was night difference. And we got back Prabhupada chastised Achutananda, why did you take everyone there? That there was some criticism by the, I don't know, I guess as a senior, he was like Sridhar man, Sundar Govinda. And he said something critical of that. that was reported to Prabhupada. Prabhupada got I didn't witness. I heard in hand at the time. So it stuck in my head till today. Then we went to Vrindavan. Doing on time, Poo. Is anybody looking at the time or is it just
12:20?
No. But how many minutes have I? Is there a time? So this is the beginning of the memories. Huh? 4 minutes extension. Well, we were staying in Western devotees called Vogel Ashram. It's real Vogla. This is it properly. Devotees. Vogla is the Agarwal community. Is somebody in Agarwal here? Okay. Very big community of businessmen. They're very charitable, and there's a big ashram. So we were staying there. There was Pod was lecturing there, and opposite this, there was a 24-hour kirtan going. Sitaram Jai Sitaram. Kirtan Prabhupada in his lectures kept saying, "I've come to Vrindavan to understand Radha Krishna." We know that there's between Sitaram and Radha Krishna. But anyway, God was explaining this in the church. And Vrindavan, I remember this stuck in the. I remember that we went over to people. It was unfinished. I remember going there and seeing a peacock, which was for us. City boys, we go to the city, see peacocks. Prabhupada's 400 devotees and ordered to go back to Mayapur to learn Varnashram. Now, to learn Varnashram, that's that explanation. To go to everyone was planning, whoever came from abroad, Vrindavan, and go home. But told us to stay one more. None of you were at the September. No. So my name is Mayapur, but I joined Tananda, who at the time was a Swami, in Alachua and a Swami. So I had joined his paper. Tamal Krishna Maharaj gave his approval as the CM. And so him, I didn't go to Bombay, not with. I remember the train with who recently left this world, Akhanla Bhakti Madhya Maharaj. His elder brother is still there, who is known from Los Angeles. At the time, he was temple president of St. Louis. At the time, I am telling him, be alert when you chant your, and then falling asleep. He was just really a lovable character and very. What happened was there was ceremony people as a token of regard, but had no political power, called the Sheriff of Bombay. This was created by the British. When the name Bombay was British name. Mumba Devi is a Durga Devi temple, and that's why they've adopted this Mumbai. But Mumba Devi, it was a fishing village and the British port in a big city. And that's the history. So he issued an order, not an order. He put a letter that the Kirtan of ISKCON in Juhu is a nuisance. So Prabhupada wanted to do Gandhiji's satyagraha, civil disobedience. So disobedience meant that a kirtan party should go in Juhu every morning. 150 devotees went on kirtan for like 10 days. I guess that's the end of 5 minutes. I should turn it over to someone else. I'm a lot of devotees. Oh boy, I don't know. It's not fair to take away your time, Prabhu.
Well, yeah, give it to someone.
You want me to keep on going?
No.
No?
I want to
Give it to someone else.
I want to see.
Okay.
Hear more, Prabhuji, but
Later on, sure.
Hare Krishna, Vasudev Prabhuji. We're not done yet, Prabhuji. We want to hear more from you, but we want to go and come back again to you. Water, yes. Water, please. Water.
Pani.
So now I request Vishwambar Prabhuji to speak few words, Prabhuji, in glorification of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Memories.
Yes.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः.
I think you can do it from here. Is that better?
No, that's not the one. The other side.
It's
Is
better.
it high enough for you?
Is it?
So can you?
Everybody can hear now? Thank you. So, there are innumerable wonderful transcendental qualities of Prabhupada, unique character of Srila Prabhupada, and advanced devotees in ISKCON, they have described and written books about Prabhupada, his life. So, I have studied many of them, not all of them, and I have enjoyed them. So I would highly recommend all of you, young devotees especially, to study Prabhupada's books about his life, biography books. These are wonderful pastimes are described in these books. According to the time limit, I can maybe describe a couple of instances that I had the chance to be with Prabhupada. I was only fortunate to spend few minutes, not very long time with Prabhupada. I didn't have long association. Like Vasu Ghosh Prabhu, he mentioned he even got personal instruction from Prabhupada. Go and open the door.
Yeah.
So I consider it a very special privilege. So one thing that has impressed me the most about Prabhupada, I can say one of the most important things that is in my mind, that Prabhupada, first time he met his Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta in Calcutta. And the instruction that he received from his Guru Maharaj, he worked very hard all his life. That I think is a very amazing thing that only you hear one time and then you make it as a mission of your life. And that time he was not even initiated in his first meeting. He got initiated a little later. In 1922 he met first time and then he got initiated in 1933. So, and he didn't meet his Guru Maharaj many times. Neither he stayed with him long time or any time. As far as he is mentioning and all the devotees are mentioning. So he, I believe he met again at Radha Kund during the Vraj Mandal Parikrama. And Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave instruction to Prabhupada about printing books. So that was probably the second time he got his instruction as far as I can figure out. So that also he made as a mission of his life. So you can see the character of Prabhupada that, and he mentioned many times also to devotees, that I'm only trying to follow the order of my spiritual master. That's all I'm doing. So we can see that by these two instances. Now, for me, it was an accidental thing. I was in Bombay in early 70s. Churchgate, I was in that Churchgate area. Anybody knows Churchgate area from here? Some devotees have been there. Anybody is from Bombay here? Yeah, two devotees are from Bombay, so they know very well. So I was wandering around and I saw a lot of people going in one. So I was curious. I joined. There, where all these people are going. So then, from a distance, we were hearing the band, like some festival is there, and I need water.
I don't know. Maybe. Want me to hold this for you?
Thank you. So, as I approached closer, then I realized there was the Pandal program happening, Hare Krishna devotees on the stage. So I went inside the Pandal, and as far front I could go, sat down in a place. Prabhupada was sitting there on the Vyasasan, and then in the middle of that, it was a very joyous occasion. Actually, my first experience with the Hare Krishna devotees. They were dancing. They were all Western devotees, American devotees, in the kirtan and everything. And then one devotee, one American devotee, came to me and he said, "Come with me. I want you to meet Swamiji." So I went with him and he took me to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked me, "What are you doing?" And I mentioned to him that I finished my study and I'm preparing to go to America. So he didn't respond, didn't say anything. I don't know what he thought about it. Maybe he didn't think anything. Then he said, "You study Bhagavad Gita." And he said, "Study Karma Yoga from Bhagavad Gita." Specifically, he mentioned. And he said, "You chant Hare Krishna on Japamala beads." He said, "Devotees here, you see, they will teach you how to chant Hare Krishna." So, and that was about it. And then maybe they took another person, another boy. I was 22-year-old that time. So that was my first meeting. But the thing that I realized that time, the deep, his merciful glance, he was looking at me with so much of love and compassion. I could actually feel it. And that way I was fortunate just to spend a few minutes with him, very little time. Next time, it was just a darshan. I never got to talk to him again. One time he was in Chicago for Rath Yatra. So that time I had his darshan. And another time in Gujarat, there was a program in Ahmedabad. But the devotees of Prabhupada, the senior devotees in Chicago, another thing that happened that was quite interesting, when I first time came to America, and I remember in New York, JFK airport, my friend had come to get me. Next day, he took me to Manhattan. And they, husband and wife, they wanted to do some shopping. They went inside the department store. in Manhattan. And I said, I'm just going to wait outside. I didn't want to go inside. So when I was waiting outside, I saw the devotees again, Hare Krishna, devotees in dhoti and kurta, doing kirtan, singing and dancing on the street. They were coming. Then one devotee came to me and gave me back to Godhead. And I gave some little, I had little money, so I just gave little money. So I thought that that was special Lord Krishna's blessing that I could have darshan of the devotees here. I became very happy to see the devotees in America. And then I came to Chicago and then I found out the temple, Evanston Temple, and devotees guided me. They took care of me very nicely. So I have very sweet memories about Prabhupada and about the ISKCON devotees. So that keeps me going in Krishna consciousness. And I always feel very happy to be in the association of devotees. Because my first experience was very nice, and after every day in Evanston Temple, devotees, they were taking care of me as a new bhakta. They were taking care. I was the only Indian that time. All the devotees were this group. So here also I am the only one. So that was, so they treated me very specially. That this guy looks different. And then they started to gradually train me and send me outside, book distribution, and then congregation preaching, going to the Indian. They wanted other Indians to come also. So they said, you go to the Indian community and invite them. They know this culture, they know everything, so they'll come to the temple. So that's how I got the training. When I was reading Prabhupada's biography, uh, first time I realized from that book that Prabhupada, he is a lifelong devotee. He was a born devotee. He was born, his father was a pure devotee, Gaur Mohande, and the Krishna consciousness was in his blood. He was doing Rath Yatra festival at a very young age. So all of these things, when I read and studied, I realized that this is a very rare thing to be in ISKCON, to be part of ISKCON, and to be part of Prabhupada's group. I considered myself very fortunate. And then later, during the early time in Chicago, they were printing books. Prabhupada was very much into printing the books as fast as possible, and specifically, he wanted the Chaitanya Charitamrita printed very immediately, urgently. So he had a marathon. Rameshwar Maharaj, that time in Los Angeles, he was heading the BBT printing, and they had like a couple of months' time, I think. Prabhupada had already translated all the volumes, and they had to finish it up, get it printed, and start distributing.
Everything, paint the pictures, printed, everything.
Pictures and everything. So,
Everybody marathon.
yeah, so Kalki Prabhu will tell us more details about it. It was a very great event. And truckloads of books were coming when I was in Chicago and in Detroit. Every week there would be a whole big truck load of Bhagavatam sets, and all these books would be coming, and we would go out and distribute them. So Chaitanya Charitamrita came, and devotees, they gave me one set as a gift. And I started reading, and I got so addicted to reading this Chaitanya Charitamrita that I had nothing else to do. Even between my patients in the clinic, I would be just picking up the book and start reading again where I had stopped. So and late night I would be reading like 12, 1 o'clock, and I have to go to Mangal Aarti. But but yeah, the book was it just caught me completely. So volume after volume, the whole set was there. So that thing I remember, that how Prabhupada he has put it so nicely. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam also the most wonderful book he has published and getting distributed. But Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically became my very dear book because of this special thing that I started reading and I got hooked on it. Bhagavatam I read also many times I read, but I read more like a study. But Chaitanya Charitamrita was like a lot of interest. So I didn't have mm, like Vasu Ghosh Prabhu had so much associate Prabhupada. I didn't have so much. But I still consider myself very lucky that I have association with all these nice, wonderful senior Vaishnavas and all of you nice devotees here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, His Grace Vishambar Prabhuji, for wonderful words and wonderful memories for Srila Prabhupada. With that, I'll request His Grace Kalki Prabhuji to share wonderful memories for Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
You need it lifted up a little.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
I just twist a little. It's good. So I don't have a lot of personal direct contact with Srila Prabhupada. I saw Prabhupada many times in India, Mayapur Vrindavan festivals, when he came there, at different temples, Washington, New York. Prabhupada would travel, and at that time I did a lot of traveling around the movement to different temples as a Sankirtan devotee, specifically a book distributor in those days. And I spent a lot of years in Chicago distributing books, but that was our base. We had a party in those days called the BBT party, and obviously we were distributing Prabhupada's books, mostly in different airports. At that time, we were just opening up all the airports. So the first time I met Prabhupada was in Chicago at O'Hare Airport. And we were out distributing books. Prabhupada was flying in. It was probably 1975, I think. Prabhupada was coming. So we had the time of his flight and everything. And of course, all the devotees went over to the gate. In those days, there was no real security. You could just go all the way down right and meet whoever it was as they walked off the plane. You could be there to meet them. So all the devotees went there. There was, several hundred, really, at least a couple hundred devotees. They come from all over to come and be with Prabhupada. So they're all in the terminal having a big kirtan. And people would be coming off the plane and, whoa, there'd be this big kirtan going on. And, in a building like that, it was just echoing up and down the corridors. And then Prabhupada walked off and it was Hari Bol, and everybody's laying on the floor in the airport, offering obey. Everybody was looking like, what is going on here? Who is this guy? He walks out and everybody's laying on the floor to greet Prabhupada. So then everyone got up and we're having a kirtan going down the corridor. And Prabhupada was, yeah, there's a movie. And Prabhupada comes down and then he gets in a car. So I was there and I was standing just outside the car looking at Prabhupada, and he's sitting in the car waiting for the luggage to get loaded, etc. And, I was just wearing street clothing because we were distributing in the airport. We had these bags that we would carry our books in. So Prabhupada's sitting there, and I could remember in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get ready to go back out. And out of habit, I just pulled a book out of my bag because I would always carry one in my hand when I was walking around. And as soon as I pulled that book out, Prabhupada looked over. And he does like that, some pranams, looks at me. Thank you very much. I don't know if he was saying for distributing the books or for having a book, but he was appreciating that we were there and we had the book. And, practically that was my only personal exchange directly with Prabhupada. But I took it as a message from Prabhupada that he was pleased that I was doing that service and to, continue with that service. So, some thoughts I would like to share. It was in those days when Prabhupada was here, there was not, in a sense, a lot of facility. When I joined the temple, I joined in Vancouver, Canada, and my temple president, his name was Baudag, and he had only been a devotee for like 3 years, and he was the temple president. He was running the whole place, and we were all just, practically bhaktas, and we had to create everything. Have at that time really the big GBC organization. We didn't have a big international society, anything like what we have today. So try to think, okay, for the devotees here, anybody here who's been like associating or even Krishna for 3 years or less. Now you have to open temples and train devotees and go out and organize everything, start a Gurukula and teach them about Krishna. And you have to do everything and hardly anything. And you have no facility. So that was our environment. And we would get together, and we had, in those days, we used to have what was called Ishtagosa. Once a week, we would all meet in the temple, usually Sunday morning, and talk about, our strategies and what we needed to do, what our needs were, as a group of people. And, it was our responsibility to figure it all out and get it done. Prabhupada would say, do the needful, and that's what we would do. And I think it's important to think about this and reflect how when Prabhupada came, he had 40 rupees that he could not spend and a trunk of books. And he had, even his godbrothers, they wouldn't even send him some kartal, some mridanga. He was just by himself. And then he had a few people who knew nothing and had no culture. And he started a world movement. And we were, in a sense, that was all of our condition. We had no knowledge even, but we had to do it. And for all of us, our real connection with Prabhupada was reading Prabhupada's books. And we would work all day, and we would hear how Prabhupada was traveling here and there and doing so many things like Vasugosh, that in the afternoon, he would spend a couple hours meeting people, and then he was tending to business with the devotees. And then he would take what we call a snap, and then he would and start translating all night long while we were sleeping. So that's how important Prabhupada felt about his books, that he gave up sleeping. And he would translate. And for many of us, when Prabhupada was there, or when we were there where Prabhupada was, we didn't want to impose ourselves on Prabhupada. He was dealing with so much business and so many things. And we felt, okay, we can get this very intimate association with Prabhupada just reading his purports. Prabhupada was hearing from Krishna and then speaking into the dictaphone. So it was, and by Prabhupada's mercy, everyone actually has that opportunity to associate very intimately with Srila Prabhupada. Of course, by our conditioning, we feel it requires some physical contact to have intimate association. But actually, with our spiritual master and with Srila Prabhupada, the most intimate connection is with Prabhupada's instructions. And everyone has that opportunity like we had. So I remember we would be, when I joined, we had first canto, and I think maybe the first volume, and maybe the second canto, and Bhagavad Gita, and Sri Ishopanishad. But when those new books came out, the devotees we'd get a new case of, the third canto, volume 1 or 2 would come, and we would just, it was very exciting. We'd steal off, okay, I'm going on Sankirtan, see ya, and go park the van and start reading. Forget it, we're reading the Bhagavatam today. We'd just be excited to get the new books. And that was what really, we were very enlivened by that. We'd be out at O'Hare Airport. I joined in Vancouver, so after about a year in Vancouver, I went to Chicago. Ganapati Maharaj, he was there in Vancouver when I joined, and he was with the BBT party with Tripurari Maharaj. So he convinced my president Bawadak to send me there to learn how to distribute books in the airport. So I went there, and then I became connected with the BBT party. I never went back to Vancouver. I didn't want to go and sell incense anymore. I said, no way. And anyway, we go out every day and we would distribute books and in the airport. Then we would travel because the BBT party, which I became a part of by the mercy of those devotees, our job was to go to the temples. And at that time, we were just opening up all the airports. We had a whole legal team of lawyers, and Magendra Prabhu, who now is also a lawyer, he lives in LA, but he was working with our lawyers, and we're opening all the airports so that we could exercise our First Amendment rights to go out and distribute books. So we would go to the airports that were opened up and go out with the devotees and train them how to import and how to distribute Prabhupada's books. But one of our big jobs was actually to help the devotees really understand that in order to distribute books, you had to read the books. And you had to read the books properly. Prabhupada didn't translate 12th canto and then the 7th canto and then the 9th canto and then come back to the 3rd canto. Prabhupada translated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we all need to read like that and take it very seriously. You want to associate, read Prabhupada's books and read them properly. Study them nicely, read them from beginning to end, and keep going over. This is absolute knowledge, and that means it is relevant to everything. Many devotees say, yeah, you just open it, you start reading, and boom, there's the answer to what I was thinking about. Because it's absolute. But you need to start and read all the way through and really take advantage of that opportunity that we have to associate with Prabhupada, and he's giving you Krishna. And like I was mentioning in the beginning, when it really comes down to it, then we have to take that responsibility personally. It's a little, how would you say, glossed over, because there is so much facility and there are so many devotees that are pushing on Lord Chaitanya's movement that it's sometimes we don't see that we have to take personally some responsibility to do something for Lord Chaitanya, for Srila Prabhupada. And, it was obvious for us because nothing. So we had to do something or we would have starved to death at best. But we had to figure it out. So there's so many opportunities that we can figure it out, but we have to, every day, I have to think, okay, what do I have to do today for Prabhupada? And then I have to motivate myself to go do it. And everyone has an opportunity to take some personal responsibility and that very intimate association by taking that responsibility. I mean, Basu Ghosh, he can tell you, he went to India. He was an American preaching to people in India. There wasn't, at that time, a lot of Indian people preaching to Indians. It was Westerners that Prabhupada brought. And Prabhupada was from India. He came and preached to us, and then he took us back to preach to everyone else. So the point is that Prabhupada motivated himself without any help, without any association even, to go out and spread Lord Chaitanya's mercy in the Sankirtan movement. And we should all take that inspiration and try to really motivate ourselves to take responsibility to do something. And you have that association of Prabhupada every day. Prabhupada wanted us to read at least 1 hour a day. Besides going to class. Oh, that's a whole other story you want to talk about. Prabhupada expected us all, get up 4 o'clock, go to Mangal Arti, chant your japa, greet the deities, Guru Puj, Bhagavatam class. If you didn't do that, you were, in our days, you were called blooped. If you stopped doing that and you just stayed home, oh yeah, he blooped. And I don't mean to criticize anybody. Don't mistake that. Everybody is trying hard. It's not easy. But it is ecstatic. The more you take it up, then the more ecstasy you get. That is for sure. But Prabhupada is our Acharya. He's our example. And by his mercy, now, we're getting that connection. And we're getting out of jail for free. Well, not really free. You got to do something. And by all of our good fortune, we have so many devotees, Prabhupada disciples, and all the devotees to associate with, which is so much more than Prabhupada had when he came. So I'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, His Grace Kalki Prabhuji. Thanks for your wonderful words, inspirations, words as well. We will definitely take some words and try to apply in our life. And the most important is we have to read Srila Prabhupada books on a daily basis. Thank you, Prabhuji, for reminding us. Hare Krishna. Now I will request His Grace Chakri Prabhuji to say. Chakri Prabhu sir, give pass to Pita Prabhu first, so I'll honor his order. I'll go to Pita Prabhuji first. Hare Krishna, Pita Prabhuji. Would like to request you to say some wonderful words about Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna. Yes, fine. Thank you. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pachanine, Nirvisesha Vadi Pasachani, Vanchakopatrubhyas, Kripa Sindhu Vachani, Tanam Bhavi Bhyo, Vaishnava Bhyo Namo. Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I first came in contact with the devotees in Philadelphia in 1970. I was away from home to go to art school at Philadelphia College of Art, which is right on the Broad Street. And one day, me and my friend from the school, we were walking and we heard the devotees chanting. So we thought, what is this? Could hear it far away. And then we came closer and we saw these Western boys and girls like us, young, very young, dancing with devotees. And I thought they looked like Gandhi. I thought, what are these people looking like Gandhi, jumping up and down with the Western clothes, but they're all Americans, and they're speaking a language that I can't understand. Why don't they speak English? So we just kind of watched them, and we walked down, and my friend, he said, oh no, those are the Hare Krishnas. They were at Woodstock. They're really cool. I said, what? He said, yeah, they were at Woodstock, and so Woodstock was a rock and roll festival that happened in, I think, 1969, 68. 69. So we walked around and just kind of looked at them, and we kind of thought we got away from them. Lady devotee, she showed up and she had a sari on and she had a ring in her nose. Boy, what is that? Ugh. Because no one did piercing in those days. It was like we didn't do that. But we thought, wow, these people are even wilder than hippies. There's a really strange group. And she gave us a book, and the book was called Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure. Handed me the book, and I looked at the book, and it was a very beautiful book. And then she invited us to the Sunday Love Feast. She said, it's not very far from here, the Sunday Love Feast, and you can come and you can take prasadam and learn about Krishna consciousness. So we said, oh, thank you very much. And we just kind of like walked down the street away from her. And then we just kind of forgot it. And then we went back to the dormitory, and in the dormitory was like art students, and everyone was taking drugs. Everyone was smoking pot. Everyone was taking LSD. Everyone was eating meat. I remember I was the cook on the floor. I would go out and buy meat and bring it home and cook it and serve it out to all the students at the university. One time I was so intoxicated once that I leaned on a window, and it was a screen window, and I fell right through the window, and they grabbed my feet just before or else I would have fell 8 floors. So this is that we were laughing at death, you know. I almost died. I wonder what that would be. I wonder what kind of a trip that would be to die. You know, so we didn't take things seriously because the Vietnam War was about to happen, or it was going on, and we knew that eventually we would be called to go there, and so I didn't think that this world had any meaning. You know, I thought Christianity, I was raised as a Christian, but I didn't see that it had any meaning. I didn't think that it met the problems of today. I thought it was something that was maybe in the past had some relative reality in life, but and I kind of gave it up. I became an atheist, and then I became an agnostic because I thought atheist is too crazy. You know, and there may be something, so I'm an agnostic. And then when I met the Hare Krishnas, they were so serious. I mean, we didn't meet people that were very deeply religious in those days. You know, everyone was wishy-washy, which means we didn't take anything serious. So they took us to we were intoxicated one night, and my friend, he was Jewish, and I grew up in Miami, which is everyone is Jew, mostly 70%, you know.
In those days.
Yeah.
Now it's Cubans.
Yeah. Oh, then as the Cubans came in, and yeah, that's another thing. But when I lived in my neighborhood, everyone was Jewish, and I was they called it the goy friend. The goy is a non-Jew. There was this, yeah, you're my goy friend. So anyway, we were laughing, and I said, you know, Eric, I grew up with Jewish people my whole life, but I've never been to the synagogue. He said, really? I said, no, I've never been. I said, can you take me? He goes, yeah, I can take you to the synagogue. And then he said, you know, I've never been to Catholic Church. I've always wanted to. Can you take me there? And I said, yeah, I can take you there. And then after a few seconds, I said, but you don't want to go. The Catholic Church is just a bunch of hypocrites. You know, and he says, well, I'll tell you, the synagogue is the same way. Just a bunch of hypocrites. You don't want to go there. He said, let's go to the Hare Krishna temple. Yeah, we'll go there. Let's get stoned and go to the Hare Krishna temple. So there were two ladies from Miami, and they were like very good-looking ladies, you know, a little top-heavy, you know, and 3 of us, 3 men and 2 women, and we went to the temple, and we knocked on the door at 9:00 at night. And he opened the door and he said, hey, what are you doing? This is at 5. Everything's over with. Go home. He shut the door on us. So we just laughed. Oh, let's go back. So then he pulled over opened the door. He says, well, come on in for a few minutes anyway. So he let us in. And the temple was day glow pink and day glow green. It was like the whole, I've never seen, I thought, boy, these people are even wise. I mean, the way that they're, and it was a night. And it was a odyssey. We came in, he said, sit there. We just fell on laid back like this against the wall. And he said, sit up. Don't point your feet towards the temple, towards the altar. You know, we follow 4 regulative principles. I said, what? The first thing he said to us, we follow 4 regulative. We don't eat meat. We don't take intoxication. We don't gamble. And we don't have illicit sex. And we just looked at it and said, oh, what are we doing here? these people are a little crazy. And, well, of course, we were young. We weren't doing. We were taking intoxication basically and eating meat. And so he says, "Okay, sit up. Now we're going to chant Hare Krishna." No, he says, "Now we're going to read from Bhagavad Gita." And as soon as he said Bhagavad Gita, all of a sudden I thought I heard that. I thought I knew that book. All of a sudden there was like this deja vu feeling, you know, Bhagavad Gita. I know that book, but I had never seen. And then he started to say, yes, this is the teachings of Lord Krishna to Arjuna. And as soon as I heard the word Krishna, yeah, that's the word Krishna. If I ever have a son, I want to name him Krishna. Krishna. And when I said Krishna, my mouth kind of like smiled. Krishna. So then he said, so he started to read the verse from Bhagavad Gita. Everyone follows my path in all respects. And as I surrender, as we surrender unto if you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. So then I said, that's magnanimous. I said, this is not Christianity. This is profound. I mean, Christianity says, if you do not serve God, I crush you like a bug. I squish you. God is like devil, you know. But Krishna is not saying like this. He says, if you try to you walk 3 steps for me, I will walk 100 steps towards you. Oh, this is wonderful. I was immediately I thought, wow, this is amazing. And then my friends started laughing, like they thought I was acting. You know, they thought I was just joking with them. And he says, and now we'll stand up and we'll chant Hare Krishna. So we stood up and we will dance in a circle. And we will swing the deities on the swing. Now, the deities were smaller than these deities. They're little teeny deities and they were on a swing. I didn't even see them. I didn't even know what we were swinging. We just stood up and we chanted around in a circle. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And push the swing. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. We go around in a circle like this and we push the swing. And after the 2 times, the women run away. They ran out of the door. And they ran away. So then it was just us 3 men. So then he got real heavy. He said, okay, sit down. I'm going to tell you something. You guys come here. You're all intoxicated. You're going to become trees and stones in your next life. You're all going to go to hell. You're going to spend millions of births as bugs and roaches. And it's just going to go through every species of life because you have no idea what you're doing. You know, and he said, and we just kind of looked at him and he says, but you have to take prasadam. So we're going to take prasadam. What's prasadam? Spiritual food. So they made some tapioca puri and fried green pepper. And they just they gave it to us on paper plates. I tasted that fried green pepper and the puri. I mean, tapioca puris don't have a lot of flavor. Huh? But as soon as I tasted them, all of a sudden they must have put some hing on it or something. My whole wow, what is that? And I taste the green pepper. Oh, wow, I never had anything taste like that. This is amazing. What did you do to it? How did you cook that? And they all thought I was just joking with them. Even Nayana Baram was he's like one of Prabhupada's first. He was there at 2nd Avenue. I hear he's now in Nepal teaching English. Anyway, he gave us a card and he said, this is the Hare Krishna mantra. You chant this mantra and never stop. So we took it and became very sincere with it. We walked back to the university, and just chanted the whole time. And then when we got to see the students. We told them about it, and they said, "Oh, never go back there. Did you give them your address? Because they'll drive you crazy. They'll trace you all over the place to get you to join their crazy religion." So then I realized, oh, it's not popular. My friends think I'm crazy for doing. I was a fool, you know. I let them fool me. And then when I went home, oh, it was in Miami. The devotees are chanting in Miami, and they were giving books out, the same books. And my friends, he says, wow, he went and bought the books and brought them back and says, here, this is the Bhagavad Gita. These are the, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He bought them all, many books. And then he says, and look at the art, it's so beautiful. We have to start painting this. So we tried to paint the pictures, and we went home and we started to read Bhagavad Gita, tried to understand it. We couldn't understand it, so we smoked some more pot. Then finally, I went back to the temple, stoned. I went to the temple in Miami, and I said, I gotta join this temple. I went to the temple and saw the temple. No, I did that. It was still later. It took me a longer time. Then I started seeing devotees again back in Philadelphia again. They invite me to the temple. I go to the temple and I meet Rabindra Sarup. Rabindra Sarup is the temple president, and everybody there, they just think I was like on angel dust. I was on marijuana. I had been living in Jersey. I thought I'd just kill myself on drugs. I lived out in the middle of they call it the Jersey swamp. Had the Jersey devil, because there's so many people that are worshiping devils there. So I went back and then I finally went to, one friend of mine was with us. He got into an automobile accident and he was in a coma. And he was in California. He had gone home. So I was so sad. I thought, I'm going to go to the Krishna temple. I'm going to bring an offering. So I went and picked little flowers that grow along the side of the road, those little white and yellow flowers, like now that are growing. And I put them in a little bag, and I walked in and I told Rabindra Sarup, I want to throw these upon the deities. Like, like a spell, like I was going to do some magic, I was going to evoke Jagannath to help me. So he said, yes, go ahead, take them and throw them onto Jagannath. So I don't think they would let us do that today. If someone came with some weeds, wanted to throw them onto Kali Chandri, do you think that the pujaris would let me do it? But in those days, so we took and I threw them all over Jagannath, and then I sat and meditated. And the devotees, other devotees, went under the floor and took poles and started banging under where I was sitting to try to get me to stop. And then Rabindra Sarup said, what you're doing is very serious. You're making a vow. I said, yes, I'm making a vow. I'm vowing to Jagannath that if he saves my friend in California, I will come back here and be a devotee. Because I know Prabhupada, I've seen his picture. I've had his picture in my room. I lived out in the middle of in an abandoned house. I said, I've been looking at his face, and I know he's very serious. I know he's real. So he's brought this process of Jagannath to America, and we're going to, and I want to know. And so I'm going to go to California. I'm going to see my friend, and then I'm going to come back. So he said, okay. He said, well, you could die. I said, I'm going to die anyway. Doesn't matter. So I went all the way to California, sleeping under trains, under railroad overpasses, sleeping in fields, sleeping in the forest. I had a sleeping bag. Then I saw how, and he said, I came out of as soon as I came to see him, I came out of a coma. They said that part of my brain that was missing is now there. And he was reading a book. And I just took him and I said, well, I've been chanting Hare Krishna. And I gave him a book. I gave him some beads, but I was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Shiva, Shiva Shiva, Hare Hare. Because I wasn't sure. I had read the book by Yogananda, and he didn't say who God was. Was he Krishna or was he Shiva? So I thought, I'll cover the base. I'll make sure. I'll chant Hare Krishna, I'll chant Hare Shiva, and that way I'll cover it. So I was chanting Hare Shiva, Hare Krishna all the way back Rabindranath routes apart to the temple on Woodlawn Street. And I had a friend who was he was a university professor, and he lived around the corner, and he had heard that I had become Hare Krishna, you know. So I knocked on his door, and he was a scholar, and his friend was an Olympic gymnast, you know, and he is David Thor. He was an Olympic gymnast. He was very famous. But so I knocked on their door. They let me sleep in the living room, and I said, I'm going to get up at 4. I'm going to go to the Hare Krishna temple. So they said, okay. So I got up. I heard a dog barking at 3:30. I woke up. I said, yeah, it's time. I went right over to the temple, and the men, they said, no, you can't come in here. We don't know who you are. You come in at this time. He said, you can sit on the front porch and chat with the women. You can't chat with the men. You got to chat with the women. So I said, fine, I don't care. So it was about 4 or 5 ladies sitting on the balcony of the temple, and we all started chanting. And as we started chanting, I started, you know, as soon as we started chanting, a fire engine went by the house. And I went, wow, that's a big sign. I chant a fire engine. Because I started thinking like these people were teaching me like what's happening at this actual moment, and you're getting some special, you know, divine directions, you know. So I started chanting, and then the fire engine went by. Oh, wow, fantastic. So then the Mongol Arts started. They let me into Mongol Arti, and then everyone's dancing and going back. First time I had been to a Mongol Arti. And then afterwards did the chanting. Everyone's sitting on the floor. And I started to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Shiva, Shiva Shiva. They said, what are you doing? Are you an idiot? You cannot chant that. And the women didn't tell me anything. I guess they didn't hear what I was saying. And so then we sat down, and next to me was this man chanting, and I was chanting. And as we chanted, they said, just listen to the sound of the mantra. So I listened to the sound of the mantra, and as I chanted, I heard the other person next to me chanting. And I was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the other person was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I was Hare Krishna, and then I hear the other person chanting, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. And then I heard a third voice. And I stopped. I thought, what was that? So Hare Krishna, then Hare Krishna. And the voice said, do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? And that voice went on for 45 minutes. And then it changed. Then it said, now do you understand? Now do you understand? Now do you understand? And then it was time for Guru Puja. Guru Puja starts, and I think, okay, these people, I'm here forever. This is my family. These are who I'm going to stay with. They have this direct connection. Jagannath is real. This is real. Krishna is God. I don't know who Shiva is. So then it's like Guru Puja. So then Rabindranath Swarup says, now it's time for Guru Puja. everyone offers a flower to Srila Prabhupada, and he gave me a flower. And I thought, oh, that's it. I can't do it. No, I'm not going to do it. And then the voice in my head said, why? You just said that you're going to stay here forever. These people are your family. And that's the person who set it all up. And all you have to do is offer him a flower. So I said, yeah, I'm a fool. I went and offered Prabhupada a flower, and then everything changed. My whole life changed. Everything changed. 3 years later, I'm in Vrindavan, sitting next to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's leaving his body. And he's talking to us about how wonderful it is to be a pujari, to serve Krishna, because you're engaged in your constitutional position. The same thing that the pujari is doing now is what you're going to do when you're back home, back to Godhead. So it's the highest form of worship. It's the highest service. From being a complete insane person to this in 3 years. It was Srila Prabhupada. Know what is divine grace? Divine grace. We know what is divine grace. Because, as I was telling Kolki, when you sit next to a heater, it doesn't matter how cold it is outside, you're warm. So Srila Prabhupada is always performing this action. It's my understanding that Prabhupada doesn't just go back home, back to Godhead, that he stays on wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes, he goes. He's on the Nitya Leela Sankirtan. He turned, because and we saw him, Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta. And in Atlanta, they asked Srila Prabhupada, we're so upset that now we're going to every place, and we know by the time we grow up, there'll be no places where we haven't been able to, where we haven't tried Sankirtan to. There'll be no new spots. We'll do the whole planet by the time we grow up. Every town and village, we'll hit every Sankirtan place we will be. He said, so we are thinking that we would have to go to another planets to do this. And Prabhupada said, that's very advanced. Yes. He didn't tell us no. He just said that is very advanced. And he said, if you surrender to me, I can take over the whole world in 15 days. But you don't listen. You don't do what I want you to do. Just have serious what I say. And in 15 days, we can take over this whole planet. But Prabhupada also said, Krishna has his plan. I have my plan. You have your plan. So what plan works? Krishna's plan. Krishna has a reason why he wants to speed it up and when he wants to slow it down. In India, on Gaurapanima, how many temples in India now?
300 or 400.
300 or 400. And they're all doing quite well. They're able to support themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's supporting. But here, we're having a difficult time just maintaining what temples we have here in America. If it wasn't for the Indians, our temples would have all closed. Atlanta is like this. Los Angeles is like this. Every temple that I know is like this. So this Krishna consciousness movement is going to be one of Indian devotees to become like Prabhupada. And they have to go all over the world. And they have to preach to everyone they see. Not just to other Indian people. Indian people already know about Krishna. What are we doing to contact the Americans? The Chinese? We spent so many years in China with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. You know, so many times I spent so many years in China, never being with any Western people. So much I thought I was when I saw a white person, I thought that's a foreigner, because we always stayed there. Anyway, I think that Mishra Bhagavan wants to say something. He's come very far. And or Chakri Prabhu. So please just study Srila Prabhupada's books, carefully chant Hare Krishna. and Prabhupada will save you. That's why he has come. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, His Grace Pita Prabhuji. Wonderful word. And also, we understand that Lord Shiva is also important. He is the greatest Vaishnava. So you got his mercy as well. But thank you for sharing your wonderful memories and really inspiring all of us that things that we see now is a lot more easier than before. And you all have gone through that journey and made it possible. We all have to take for the next level. And you rightly said, not just Indian, to me, like every one of us become like Srila Prabhupada's passion for Krishna consciousness and preach whoever we can preach to. Thank you, Prabhuji, for inspiring us. With this, I'll request His Grace Chakri Prabhu to speak few words, and then we come to Vishnu Bhagwan Prabhu as well. Hare Krishna.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurame Nirvisesha Samvari Pastrachali Satarina. So I had the good fortune of growing up in New York City because devotees were there. And this is about 1973. Whenever I went on the subways, I would always see the devotees. They were, at that time, collecting, what they said they were collecting was for Bangladesh food relief. And they had these boxes, they looked like cigar boxes. And they were opened up, and they were wearing dhotis. They would go around the trains itself and collect donations that way. So I was riding on the subways a lot, so I would always meet the devotees. And they were giving out books also, so I got the books. And it was basically the same books, a lot of the same books we have now, Perfection of Yoga, Beyond Birth and Death, Easy Journey to Other Planets. So I started reading those books, and I was getting into yoga and things of that nature. So wonderful, they were very convincing. They gave all that you might look for. They everything about life and what is the goal of life. So actually, I was reading those books for maybe a year at least, and I had just decided that I'm going to be a devotee. I had never been to a temple. I had just seen devotees on the street, but just by reading those small books, I knew that that's what I want to do. I was going to be a devotee. And then one time I saw a chanting party downtown, 42nd Street Library in New York, and I was able to purchase a Bhagavad Gita then. So I started reading that, and me even more. This is what I'm going to do with my life. I would say devotee. So finally, after reading the books for so long, and this is the power of Prabhupada's books. This is why we have to read these books. And we have to distribute these books. That's what I wanted to say. We have to distribute these books because the books will convince people to take up this process in their life. So we still have all these books that we had back then and more books. So this is how we can spread Krishna consciousness by distributing these books. So finally, after I don't know how long it was, a year or 2 years, I finally visited the temple, and that was in Henry Street. I remember I walked in, and Pancharatna was sitting in that little office there on the side. So he showed me the temple, and I just started coughing and coughing. I think it was the incense. I wasn't used to incense back then. So yeah, so I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life. So finally, I decided, I came to the temple and I said, okay, I'm going to join today. I want to join the temple. So I think it was a Sunday program or something like that. So there were a lot of people coming then. A lot of new people were joining in the Henry Street Temple. So I said, I want to join today. And they said, well, I'm really sorry. We have a lot of other people that are head and we can't let you join today. So I was a little disappointed because at that time I had left home and I'd stayed with my brother for a while and I was staying with some friends. So I really had no fixed place because I knew I wanted to join the temple. So the evening went on and finally toward the end of the evening they came back to me and they said, okay, we'll let you join us. We have to be merciful to you because today is Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Wow. Jai, Lord Nityananda ki jai. So by Lord Nityananda's mercy, they let me stay and stay in the temple. So it was very crowded. I mean, one room maybe about 1/4 the size of this area here, and there must be at least 100 devotees in there. We all had our own sleeping bag, and we were just sleeping right next to each other. And what we did all day, basically, we would just go out and do Harinam. That's what we would do in the streets of New York City. We were doing Harinam and distributing prasadam. I don't even think we had that many books then, 1973, but we were distributing prasadam and giving out invitation cards. And I remember we mostly were distributing peanut butter burfi, and the people were really, really attached to it. Every day they would, when we were chanting, they'd say, "Where's the sweets? Where's the sweets?" So, and then in 1975, we moved to the temple in New York, 55th Street. That was a very beautiful facility. We had a restaurant on the bottom, many, many floors. I don't remember how tall the building was, but 14 stories? Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful building. And again, we were still going out chanting every day. But then at one point, yeah, and like Kalki Prabhu was saying, we were very serious about our sadhana. When you went to the morning program, everyone went to Mangal Arti, and somebody would be at the door, and you weren't allowed to leave unless you had a good reason. You'd have to chant your japa, stay for Guru Puja. So it was very strict about attending the morning program. And, many of us still try to do that. I mean, if you come to Mangal Artik now here in Dallas, you see there'll be 3, 4, 5 Prabhupada disciples here because we were trained that way to do that. And so then, I don't remember, it was around March or so. See, we were told that Prabhupada was going to come for Rath Yatra that year. This was 1976. And this was going to be the first Rath Yatra in New York. We were going to go right down 5th Avenue, the main street in New York City, one of the most popular streets in the world, 5th Avenue. We had a huge Rath Yatra plan. But at the same time, they said, well, we have this Radha Damodar party, and we'd like you to go on this party and distribute books. So I thought, but we promise you that you will come back for Rath Yatra. Because I definitely wanted to come and be with Prabhupada. So I went on the party. We traveled all over America, distributing books. That was really a wonderful experience. But when the time came to go to Rath Yatra, they said, well, this is the main service to Prabhupada, so just stay on the bus party. So I just stayed, and I missed that Rath Yatra, but at the same time, it was very ecstatic distributing books for Prabhupada. So at some point, we pulled into the Fisher Temple, the Fisher Mansion in Detroit. That was 1976, June of 76. And Prabhupada was there. Prabhupada came there. So bus party leader was Gopichand Balaba. At that time, he wasn't Swami, but he was my bus leader, kind devotee. And he said, you should get initiated now. So I thought, well, I don't know if I'm really ready, but he said, no, you better get it now. You never know what's going to happen. So the next day they had did the installation of Gornatai in the temple, and we had our initiation ceremony, and at that time I got initiated directly from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. And when he gave me my name, I wasn't sure what he had said, Gridas, but I thought he had said Das. And I knew from reading Bhagavad Gita that the word Chet meant body. So I thought that was my name, Body Das. But then the next day, Gopi Jana told me that it's Chakri, that Krishna has a weapon. So I felt a little relieved at that. Chetradas was a little more correct name. Anyway, so the next morning, I got the opportunity to go on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. So that was a wonderful experience. We got in the vans and we pulled up to a park somewhere. And then when Prabhupada was already walking down a pathway. And just by seeing him, it was like my consciousness was immediately transformed. Like I thought, like, wow, Prabhupada is in the spiritual world. And I could just feel that devotional energy from Prabhupada. So, yeah, we went on the walk. I mean, I couldn't hear too much about what he was saying, but it was just a wonderful experience being there with Srila Prabhupada. And one thing about the initiation ceremony, after the initiation, we had a wonderful kirtan, and everybody was just shouting, Jai Prabhupada, Jai, and the kirtan kept building and building and building. And he left the temple room and he walked out, and we were behind him just chanting louder and louder and louder. And he walked up this stairway to a balcony, and we were just going crazy, chanting, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, louder and louder. And finally he turned around and looked at us on his face. And that smile, it just lit up the whole room. It was so beautiful, that smile. I'll always remember that ecstatic, effulgent smile. So, yeah, I guess I could say more, but that was my training. Most of the devotees back then go on Harinam, distribute books, come to the morning program, have good sadhana. So, I mean, that's all I know how to do, so I'm still trying to do it by Prabhupada's mercy. And I think that's, the formula we can all follow that Prabhupada wanted. And reading his books. The last Bhaj Purnima, there was an online Zoom program, and devotees were speaking about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in particular, Giriraj Swami was speaking, quoting from Bhagavatam, how this book, Bhagavatam, is the literary incarnation of Krishna for this age, and how important it was to read Bhagavatam, that it's non-different from Krishna. So actually, I hadn't been seriously reading Bhagavatam for a long time. So after that class, I started reading Bhagavatam again. And now I know I won't stop because it's just too good, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. The verses and even the purports are just so amazing. So Prabhupada has given us that gift of his books to associate with him, directly perceive Krishna through his books. Given us this formula. Read his books, have our sadhana, distribute books, go on Harinam, and that will make us happy. That's what Prabhupada wants. He said, I want everyone to become happy. Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So before we go to Mishra Bhagwan Prabhu, just give you some idea what we doing next. So as soon as Mishra Bhagwan Prabhu ends his speaking, and then we'll do the Aarti. of Radha Govinda and Jagannath Balasudra as well as Gaur-Nitaya. And as soon as we done that, we would like to have group picture with Prabhupada disciples and all of you. So it's probably the memory for all of us. And then we go for Prasadam. So with that, I would thanks Chakri Prabhuji for all his inspiration. I know Prabhuji is so consistent. Every single morning he's there singing so nicely every single day. And it inspires all of us. Thank you, Prabhuji, for doing that. And thank you for being here. And with that, I'll request Mishra Bhavan Prabhuji, which now little bit away, for still I see he comes every single day, or most of the time he comes there in the temple. That also wonderful inspiration, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with all of you. Talking about Srila Prabhupada, the first thing I thought about was Prabhupada here in Radha College. He resides there on his Vyasasan. I was reading something from Gopi Gita today on Facebook that she was saying how Prabhupada relates to all the different devotees. So everybody's a Prabhupada disciple in a sense. If you're a grand disciple or direct disciple, we all Prabhupada Nugas. Prabhupada is the founder of the National Society for Krishna Consciousness. And it's not that because we joined in 1973, and though some of you may have joined in 1993 or 2003 or 2013, whenever it doesn't matter that you have as much access to Srila Prabhupada to have a relationship with him through his representatives and through his presence in his books and on the Vyasasan and in the hearts of the devotees. So that goes back. Prabhupada spent a lot of time here in Dallas personally. Maybe you've seen some of the pictures. And he really cared about this temple. He was very much interested in this community, but much more than other places in America. He put a lot of time and energy in, and especially the school. He wanted this to be the place for Gurukula. And there's pictures of Prabhupada showing students how to write Sanskrit. There's actually a diorama of that in his Samadhi in Mayapur. So Prabhupada's there for all of us. He's, I think, he represented by the authorities here in Dallas. I was thinking how Nityananda Prabhu and Mathuranath, they were very close to Tamal Krishna Goswami. And the way Tamal Krishna Goswami was and Lokanath Swami, certain devotees were extremely close to Prabhupada. They were like right and left hand man. And I think it was Madhavisha that said you can't really talk about Prabhupada's pastimes without mentioning Tamal Krishna Goswami. They were so intertwined, you know. For myself, I started with in 1973. I went to a movie. In 73, there was a movie called The Concert for Bangladesh that was playing throughout the theaters. It was a really amazing rock concert, if you can call it that. That was in Madison Square Gardens in 1970. So they made a movie out of it, and this movie was in the theaters. So I guess I was 14 years old, and my friends and I, we went to see this movie. And first opened up with Rabbi Shankar, Bengali, and he was playing sitar, and it just absolutely amazed me. It was this one sound that came out of the music was the tabla going go whoop. And I was sitting there, and I heard that sound, and I was trying to see where's that sound coming from. I was looking at the different instruments, and I thought, whatever that is, I'm going to learn how to play it someday. I'm going to make that sound. And I eventually ended doing so with the Mridanga. And then George Harrison came on. He had this really nice white suit on with a bright red silk shirt. And he leaned into the microphone and he said, Hare Krishna. And then broke into the song, My Sweet Lord. And I sat there, I was like, what was that? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I went home. I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I just like, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's catchy. So I thought, I'd like to meet these people. Who are the Hare? Who's Hare Krishna? And so then our family, we moved. That was in California. We moved up to Oregon that summer, the summer of '74. And I got a job downtown in the Hilton. So it was my first job. And then I was 16 years old, and I saw a poster, a picture, Srila Prabhupada, a poster that, because Prabhupada had come to Portland, Oregon. This is in Portland, Oregon. Prabhupada had been there a year before. So there's still some posters pasted to the telephone poles in downtown Portland. So I saw that, and then it was just so amazing. I was like, well, who is that? You know? The poster was a little bit torn, but his face was there. And I thought, I just got to meet them. I wonder where they are.